Underway, all on the start line already, and as Eilish was saying, a great field assembled. Good morning, Paula. Before we get underway, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
From the half marathon to add to her 10K record from Australia, please welcome Izzy Bat Doyle.
Well, let's introduce some of our main contenders here. Bat Doyle from Australia, the Australian record holder at half marathon and 10K. In very, very good form, and lots of women know this could be a very fast race. They've come here with an opportunity to try and get fast times behind perhaps one or two of the fancy athletes to win this. Wanjiru might be one of those. You can see their marathon is very much her skill set. The last 10K on the roads was back in 2022.
Representing Kenya, Hellen Obiri.
Hellen Obiri, one of the great athletes of all time, cross-country, track, and now on the roads. Former 1500-meter runner who's now one of the world's best marathon runners, but is still an incredible competitor over the shorter distances, 10K. And I'm saying 10K is a short distance for some of these. At the other end of her career, this young lady here, Medina Isa from Ethiopia, fastest in the world this year already at this distance on the road, has been running on the track as well. New personal best at 3,000 meters, perfectly set up for this one. But if she's to win, she's going to have to take on last year's winner, Gotitom Gebrselassie, who ran brilliantly last year to win this race and will be looking to defend it against her young compatriot. Slight change to the first kilometre or so from what we've had in recent years, but we're all very hopeful of a very fast race here. Hellen Obiri still holds the fastest ever 10K run by women on this course, well, almost the same course, in Manchester back in 2022. That's 30 minutes and 15 seconds. And if I mentioned that Aisa already has run well under 30 minutes this year, it gives you an idea of what we're set up for. No pacemakers, of course, Paula, on the roads. Well, we can have in marathons, obviously, but tend not to in the 10Ks. But certainly 3 or 4 women here. We know that Obiri recently ran the Boston Marathon. 1 or 2 others were in London. Might still have that in their legs. But it's set up for what could be a quick race this year.
Yeah, I think we've got a really intriguing mix of runners here, and it's exciting to see how they come together and race over this shorter distance of 10K. Hellen, as you mentioned, was very, very close to winning and ran very quickly 2:17 in Boston, but that is only just under 4 weeks ago, and only 3 weeks recovery for Vivian Cheruiyot, who's bouncing back from the London Marathon. And then you've got young Isa, who is running so impressively over that kind of middle distances from 5,000 up to 10,000 meters, and seems happy at this point for it to be Hellen at the front pushing it on. Not really any surprise there. She knows she won't have that change of pace in her legs yet return fully after the marathons. It will be when they make that turn to head back towards this finish area from Old Trafford that they will feel that wind. It was more sheltered in amongst the buildings as well, I think, than I would have been down on the canal, and hopefully it's dropping through the day.
Well, they've gone off at a pretty good pace, so 3:06 wouldn't be good enough if they stayed right on that sort of pace all the way run. But in fact, quite a few athletes are going to be using Gifu as their kind of training camp, holding camp, before they go to the World Championships this year in Tokyo. But looks as though, Paula, that little surge, she's decided to back off, although she made that second kilometre a little quicker, 3:05.
Yeah, I don't think she really raised that as much as she looked like she was doing and looked like she intended to do, and perhaps that's why we've seen Isabel Bat Doyle of Australia move through to the front. She is the Australian record holder. Probably might have expected some of the women here to go off a little bit quicker, and that she would kind of get pulled through to a quicker time today, but is ending
just 1 or 2 gaps starting to appear. What I was going to ask you, Paula, the difference is, you know, when let's say take someone like Dominique Scott or Verity Ockenden, if the pace is nice and steady and you run a good time, the difference is that the likes of Obiri, the likes of Gebre Selassie, certainly the likes of Asa, can absolutely explode over the last 3 or 4 kilometres. They can lift the pace in the way that perhaps others can't.
Yeah, and I think that's the key difference. So the pace that they're running at now is between 30:50 and 31-minute pace, which is why Alex has found herself stranded kind of between the packs, because she was feeling that that second pack was not going quick enough and this one was going too fast for her to commit to. And for the likes of Hellen Obiri and certainly for Medina Issa and Gebre Selassie, they can really change pace quickly, so they can surge within that, and that will make the same pace much harder than were it to be carried on running evenly. So running from this pace and then throwing in a 3 minutes or faster kilometre split will do a lot of damage to that pack, and you might see the likes of Dominique Scott, Verity Ockenden, just letting them do what...
Lead group has Hellen Obiri, Wanjiru there, Gebre Selassie, Asa, the pre-race favourite, Dominique Scott, you can see, Pat Doyle from Australia, Vivian Chariot as well. So back at the start, the men are ready to go. And again, another good field again, which contains our defending champion. Come on to him in a second. Just introduce 2 or 3 of the other main contenders. This is Tesfu from the Netherlands, a Dutch record holder. Lots of new records being broken. We haven't mentioned shoes yet, Paula, but we will, because it's almost like every month national records get broken in various places. Great to see Mazanet Geramu back. He was here last year on a part of his comeback trail from injury. Great World Marathon silver medalist back in 2019, 2022. Great athlete in his day and still running well. Now, one you may not be too familiar with if you're big, even if you are a big track and field fan, Santiago Catrofe. He's just produced a very, very quick 10K time recently. South American record holder now from Uruguay. One of the greatest athletes over the last decade or so, Salomon Barega. I remember picking him out at a World Indoor Championships in Birmingham years ago when he was a youngster, and he went on to win the Olympic title in Tokyo in 2021, and now has moved up to the marathon with great effect, winning Seville earlier this year in his first marathon. So looking forward to seeing what he's going to do here. This is actually only his second 10K ever. Got to go all the way back to 2017 for a 10K on the roads, of course, 10,000 meters on the track. Brilliant exponent of that. Whereas for Vincent Ngatic, he knows what it's like to win. The defending champion of the Great Manchester Run. So the men about to set off. Just about 30 seconds away for them. And then the masses start to follow them. You can see there. This start line will then be populated for the next hour or 2. So Keeley gets them underway. Great to see Keeley and Kelly and Alpaca here. 3 incredible athletes. And Keeley back from injury, and they're going well. We're here, looking forward to seeing her racing shortly. I think she's announced Stockholm, I think, is her first race of the season in probably 5-6 weeks' time. Certainly first big race in the Diamond League. Maybe I just don't understand either of them.
It is settling down though, back at the front now after that, pushing on for the first part. Ngatic now looking around, looking for somebody else to come through, and Barega hits the front. Well, it's a line really, isn't it? A line control in the front of this race at the moment.
Yeah, it's always interesting, isn't it? You know, I said the same in the women. I reckon the women are not going that fast. And some of the athletes who are looking for a big run, probably coming in thinking, oh, look at these big names here, it's going to be fast, I'm going to get dragged around to personal best. And then all of a sudden you find that nothing. Finally, we're seeing a little bit of a break at the front. They went through Paula 15:35, which isn't that fast. It is for some of them, but for certainly the 3 we're looking at the front here, not so fast. Vivian Chariot just struggling to go with these 3.
Yeah, and I think this is probably the three that we would have expected to break away. Viviane Cheriot, outstanding runner, everything that she's achieved, but she is now 41. She is trying to come back from a strong performance in the London Marathon, 3 weeks ago. So you wouldn't probably expect her to be able to live with the injection of pace that has happened at the front. And Isa still looks like there's plenty of bounce there, plenty of throwing it down to the two settled in behind her, saying, okay, how much have you got left in your legs? You've been racing the marathons, I haven't. I've established that world lead performance coming into this race, and that gives her a huge amount of confidence when she looks down and she knows that she's put those performances in this year. She's in that kind of shape, and it gives her a buffer ahead of the two who are now struggling to maintain that contact and working very hard to stay in her slipstream.
Yeah, I really enjoy watching this young lady here. She's, as we just dropped back to see Verity Ockenden running alongside Dominique Scott. Verity went through 14:36, excuse me, 14 would be good, wouldn't it? 15:36 through 5K. She's going to have to work hard now. Behind we saw Neil, and then another, there she is, and not too far back, and then there's a bit of a gap to Alex Bell after that. But yeah, just to go back to Isa at the front, has ran on the roads in Germany, the big road racing event that was there in April, then headed out to Miami, and in the Grand Slam track there where they do a 3K and a 5K back to back. I mean, she ran a PB in the 3K, almost ran a personal best in the, well, it was a strong 5K as well. And to me, she hasn't quite yet developed the finishing kick that you really need to win the big medals at Olympics World Champs on the track. But she's
found her distance at 10K, and 10K on the roads is now moving at a pace that the other two have had to make. It's not that they've made a conscious decision not to go with it, they've just not been able to go with the pace and are now kind of locked in a battle between the two of them, although Helen is looking a little bit more awkward than she always does. She always has a little bit more movement in her arms than Gebrselassie would do, but she does look for me as though she's struggling more than usual.
Yeah, Helen will be the first to concur with Paula around her action, but one thing Helen does is give 100% every time. It was actually a great race in the Boston Marathon, I thought. People overlook the fact that she got beat, and she's had a great introduction to her marathon career, winning in New York, winning in Boston the year before. Couldn't quite win the Olympics, obviously. Hassan had that great race with Tigist, and you've got Helen Obiri who just manages to somehow always drag a big performance. So in Boston this year, we all thought the last 3-4K, this is Helen, but they were operating what is actually her marathon personal best. And on the marathon course, you ran Boston, you know, it's not easy. And so she ran, you're out on a out and back run, you know, yeah, run that lamppost, touch it, that's where you turn around. Anyway, she's just run a 2:59 and a 2:58, the 2 kilometers between 6 and 7 and 7 and 8. That's why she's got a big lead. Oddly enough, Dewi Griffiths is leading in the men's race here. So a little bit like the women, none of the bigger names in the sense of the favourites wanting to take this on too much. It hasn't been super slow, but you can see there that that's still a fairly big group. And Gatich, last year's winner, Barega, they're just very happy to let Griffiths take this early pace. Good to see him up there, though. This is brave to be taking it on with these guys around. Just up that little rise. Big group there. And Gatich kind of hovering on the side there. Barega's almost...
Which makes it a little bit more impressive than that time, but certainly where he knows what he's doing absolutely on the track. It is different on the roads, and I think you maybe take a little bit of time to settle into that. He was impressive in Seville, but he has talked about how painful it was. I mean, he was on 2:2.23 pace until the final 7K or so, and then I think found out how tough the marathon can be at that point in the race, so that also takes a little bit longer to recover and come back from.
Alongside one if we can, please.
While the men kind of play a little bit of cat and mouse and look at each other, in the women's race, very clear as to who is going to win this, and certainly grasped hold of the race in a pretty aggressive manner, and nobody able to do anything. Guys, good pace. I mean, you can't say it's slow, but the pace completely changed in the women's race as soon as Medina Issa decided to go at the front. As I mentioned, ran a 2:59, then a 2:58. And we said, Paul, early on, when you're in the middle of your track career, you've got that ability to do that, haven't you, on the roads? When it's running 3.5s, 3.6s feels easy, but you can just lift in a way that others can't.
Yeah, and I think that there's two factors to that. There's the fact that she knows that she can do that, and she knows how easy that felt lifting it like that. And then once she's away, she can kind of risk a little bit more in terms of pushing harder to go after times. But for the others as well, when they know that their personal best is 45 seconds or so slower, then it's harder for them to commit to be able to go with that, because they know that when that pace and that hammer goes down, it's going to hurt, and it's better to concentrate on running their own pace and maintaining that and keeping something alive for this battle here for second and third.
Yeah, this is the battle for second and third. I can tell you a little further back as well that Amy Eloise Neal has now passed Verity Ockenden, who's Neal is now one of the world's best, has got so many options. She's a nice looking runner as well, Paula. You know, for the road, she's got a good action as well. We talk about Helen, but you know, I would just like to see her. She gets a little bit stronger, develop a little bit more pace and racecraft on the track if she's going to contest at 5,000, maybe 10,000 eventually on the track at the big championships, World Champs later this year, for instance. She just needs to have that in her locker as well. Yeah,
she does. She's very much still learning that trade, perhaps because she was so much better than the others at junior level, so she hasn't had to really learn the tactics of putting herself in the right position and really judging those races.
Right, now the gaps are closed. Is that Emily Sisson who's moved up?
Yeah, I think it is.
I think it is. That's a run. I mean, I think partly because these two have been running together. You can see that Issa goes. Obiri's been at the front, but Gebrselassie has just been waiting. And now all of a sudden, though, Sisson has caught them. So my old coach, Paul, used to say, if you catch somebody, go past them. But that's easier said than done when the two ahead of her are going as well as they are and are as good as they are. But
and
that's
who
a great
they are
run
as
from
well,
Sisson.
I think.
Yes,
when you reel them in, this is giving a huge confidence boost to Emily Sisson, and she's had a little bit of a rough ride. She kind of didn't get the run that she wanted to in the American Olympic trials over the marathon distance or in the marathon itself. So now we'll be really buoyed by getting back to those two racing for second and third. Meanwhile, Barega is starting to turn the screw here.
Yeah, through halfway in just under 14 minutes, 13:52, so quick. And if they went really quick or quickish, if they went really quick in the second half, which these guys could do, then we could be looking at something well under 28 minutes. But Barega pulling, and Gajtic and Katrov, the best three-year champion on the track, is going to continue to develop. And look at Emily Sisson. This is brilliant from the American.
She's listening to you. See, she said, right now I'm going to go right past them. She's also looking around and seeing who's in that pack and thinking, if Helen Obiri is looking a little bit tired, I'm going to create a buffer for that, because no matter how tired we've talked about Helen Obiri can be, she can still finish. And Emily will want to keep moving hard into that finishing straight to give herself as good a chance as possible of shaking the two behind her from her coattails.
Yeah, personal best goes all the way back. I say all the way back, a couple of years back. 2023 for Emily Sisson, has run 32 this year. But you know, when you're in your kind of big marathon part of your career, but she says, I'm just giving that bit of a rest for the time being. So that gives you a little bit of chance to get a bit more pace in your legs, run the shorter distances. Great effect here. I mean, if she were to come second here, not just coming second, Helen's gone. I know what you said about the finish, but with 400 to go, she isn't catching that up. Gebrselassie looking behind. That's always a bad sign. It's Sisson has just got ahead, focused, is away.
A long way up, but I do think Emily might be on for personal best.
So Issa, the 20-year-old from Ethiopia, if you have never seen her run before, you're going to see an awful lot of her in the major championships in the coming years. But For the first time, she's going to win the Great Manchester Run. It's not going to be an incredibly quick time, but it's pretty solid and a quick second half. Isa wins in 2025. Great victory for her against some big names, but Emily Sisson of the USA has managed to really find a strong finish in the last 2-3 kilometers to get ahead of last year's winner Gebrselassie and Hellen Obiri. So the American with a big performance, and that is going to be a huge run for her, inside a personal best by probably 20 seconds, maybe even 30 seconds or so. Gebrselassie takes third, and Hellen Obiri looking a little tired, did a lot of the hard work for fourth, and then we'll be watching for the others to come through. Pat Doyle, the Australian, I can see Amy Eloise Neal almost running down Vivian Chariot here. Vivian Chariot will be coming in next. And then Neal with a pretty good run there, around about 31.5 minutes. Just outside her. South African, isn't she? Should know, I know her really well. Getting my Antipodean countries mixed up a little bit. Anyway, Ngaitic, Barega, Katrofe. Help me with my pronunciation here, Paula, because I haven't commentated on him before. And is it Katrov?
Spanish is the one I don't have. Katrov, maybe? I don't know.
Well, whatever, he's running very, very well. Looks comfortable, doesn't he? I just, you know, these three were expected. They're in great form in different ways. Ngaitic, last year's winner, and hoping to do something similar to what he did last year, where he ran away in the second half. But it's Barega, you know, I've always enjoyed watching Barega. I think he's a great athlete. The Olympic Games didn't go his way, didn't defend his title in the way he would have liked.
Of cat and mouse here. I'm not sure Katrofe wants to be at the front. He's kind of drifted his way through. He's gesturing for Barega to come by. This is a real race now. They don't care about the time. They care about getting it right and making a big move when it counts the most and when it's going to hurt the other two the most.
Which is a shame, because I think they're on record time. They're on a time, or certainly on a pace, which if they don't slow too much, you're looking at each other, but you want to win, right? You want to win a big race like this. But if you are watching the clock, as we are a little bit, and you're thinking, right, you know, the 27-21, Mika Kogo, 2000, very well. I can see Brett Robinson is leading the chase, but in that little group, Garamenu, let's say that again, Garamu, and Alfie Manthorpe is running very well the last 12 months or so. Alfie is tucked in there. There he is. He's actually pushing it on now. He's got, you know, one of the greats, Garamu, then Brett Robinson, great experience the Australian has, but Manthorpe just trying to work out, Paul. I think he's going to get close to 28 minutes here. He's probably sensing it. You know, if he can finish strongly, he's probably thinking, well, I'm not the top three here, but let's keep this pace going. I've got a chance of getting a personal best.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that will be going through his mind, and certainly in terms of with the two others around him, if I can go to the front and just push on a little look back, then come on, somebody give me a bit of help here, because we are on for a decent of kilometers.
Well, he's got 2K to go. It would have to go some. He's went through there in 22:41. His personal best is 28:15. So he'd have to really find a couple of big last couple of kilometers. Not possible. So what do we see here, Paula? There's Ngaitic and Barega. There's a saying in athletics, isn't there, that a very good Ethiopian and a very good Kenyan, when it comes to sprint finish, the Ethiopian wins. But on the road, it's always a bit different. Your sprint finishes on the road are just so different, aren't they?
They are, but true to form, it is at the moment the Ethiopian who's tracking, which is kind of the way that they do. It's definitely the way that the Ethiopians train. They spend a lot of time up in the high.
And Garamu now has just moved past Alfie Manthorpe. Oh, it's great running by the British athlete to try and force it on, but Garamu's decided he's into just about the last 2K here. 9K it'll be there very, very soon. So he's pulled himself away into fourth. Incidentally, just taking a lead from the women's race, Aisa ran 15:07 for the second half. compared to 15:35 for the first half. I think we're seeing something similar in the men's here. Really have picked it up, these three. There's the 9K. They've already gone through it. I'm waiting to see what the actual clock was. Okay, Paul, it was 24:59. That means a really fast last kilometre. I don't think it's going to be... They needed to be about 6 or 7 seconds quicker if they were to get the course record.
Yeah, I think if he was on a track and he was really fresh coming into it, Barega might be able to do that. But now doing his legs on the road, and although he's just pipped on the line there, he's still saving something, and this is better for him as they get closer and closer to that finish line.
And he was very close to Jimmy Gressier, the Frenchman, and look, he's the only one to try and cover here. And Gatic has got nothing. Barega's gone early here, very early. Now, if Kutrov could just hang on to him, struggling to, that's a big burst of speed, as we'd expect from Barega. Is it good enough? Looks as though it's going to be. Is it too early? I doubt it. He's strong enough to keep this going. He can smell the finish line just about. The crowd's developing. He's passing folks who were in the half marathon under the bridge, and now we'll be able to see the Finnish gantry just ahead of him. So Salomon Barega, Olympic champion from 2021 in Tokyo, moved onto the roads in fine style. This is the first time we've seen him here in Manchester, only his second ever 10 kilometers on the roads, looking to have a new part of his career where he looks to dominate if he can. 10K, half marathon, marathon even, who knows, but this time he'll be absolutely delighted to win the Great Manchester Run 2025. Salomon Barega is a champion. The Uruguayan pushed him all the way across the line in second place. They're around about 27:50 or something, the winning time. Just a little bit of cat and mouse over the last 3 or 4 kilometers. And those three well ahead, and Gatic, last year's winner, having to settle for third. Alfie Manthorpe has really chased hard for Guérémou, but Guérémou just responds, finds a little bit of speed from years gone by. Alfie Manthorpe not far outside his personal best, around about 28:20. We'll get the official time there. Very good run from him though, 5th place in a good field. Brett Robinson in 6th.
Finished that last 400 meters really, really quickly.
Last 5K was very fast in that men's race, 12:57. I think we'll check that because that is incredibly quick. Anyway, they are our top three. Barega wins it with a great last 5,000 meters. Kutrov, second place from Uruguay, and last year's winner, Gatic, was third. And that's it for the elites for now. Back to Sarah.
2 brilliant elite races.
Yeah, well done to her. Really good performance to finish second in a great field. Men's result first, though. There's Barega, 27:49. Incredibly fast last 5 kilometers. Kutrov was second. Last year's winner, third. Guérémou came through for a strong finish ahead of Alfie Manthorpe, the first of the British athletes. Big performance from him, not far outside his personal best. And then further down, David Griffiths coming in 8th place. Medina Asa, one of the top young athletes in the world at the moment on the track and indeed on the roads, winning 30:42. Again, a dominant last half of the race. Emily Sisson came through very strongly to get ahead of last year's winner, Gebre Selassie, and the great Helen O'Beary. Amy Eloise Neal, first of the British athletes ahead of Verity Ockenden, finishing in 7th and 9th.